Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit more about the internet, some examples of how we use it. Email. You know, you don't need a browser to do email. You just need an email client, even though most people use a browser. Simple mail transfer protocol, that sends mail up to email server. And POP and IMAP, one or the other, depending on which protocol. You know what protocols are now. You're running brings the email back to you. So to make this simple, everybody should have a NIACC, or let's use me, I have a NIACC email. That server sits here at NIACC. The student email at NIACC, the student email NIACC sits somewhere else, my NIACC. Okay. Then my Google email sits here at Google. And I also have a Mediacom email, that sits at Mediacom and so forth. So when a student sends me an email, let's say from home, comes in the internet, simple mail transfer protocol puts it on the server. And then maybe I'm sitting at home and I go to read my email, okay? And so I send a signal to the server, and the server sends the email back to me, and I can look at it. It comes back to me using POP or IMAP, depending on what the college is using, okay? Similar thing happens with Google, in and out. So you should know that you send your email up to a server, then you read that server to get the email back to you. Those servers are typically backed up on a regular basis, so even though you delete your emails, you delete them all off and you think they're gone, no, if the FBI wants to see them, they could be sitting up on a backup somewhere, whether it's just at NIACC or somebody's doing it through the cloud. So they may not be gone. They're probably not. We're going to do remote access to servers. I have a server that we use here on campus, and we contact that server. We're going to use PuTTY, and I'll demo that a little bit later in a video. And we use Win Secure Copy to communicate to that server in order to understand a little bit more about servers and how they're used. We can send files to and from a server. If you're on your PC or your device and you bring a file from a server, some type of file server or whatever, that's a download. If you're on your device and you send a file to a server, that's an upload. When we move traffic through the internet or through any network, and it's going through intermediate devices, there's always a chance for somebody to intercept the signal and look at it and so forth. Security with transfers, SCP is secure copy. That encrypts the information before it sends it and gets decrypted on the other end. So people can't read it. Somebody that's in the middle here can't read it. FTP is not encrypted, file transfer protocol. It just sends the information like I drew here. It doesn't encrypt it. So somebody in the middle could view it or see it. Alright. So let's move up to the next topic here. The World Wide Web. There are lots of examples of how we use the internet nowadays. I listen to a podcast called Reply All, And it's really good about bringing up interesting things about the internet. Okay? And how people are using the internet and websites to do things. Websites are made up of some type of web server software. Apache is an example that you can use that to host a website. And what it does, it allows you to store this information, that page source, the HTML, hypertext markup language, to store that. And we did, we can show some examples of that. I think I did already a little bit. So you can get a location, and we have that server here on campus that you can use to upload your HTML and have a website, just that simple. Or you can pay somebody for space somewheres to keep your website. There are software packages that allow us to create websites. There's all kinds of online providers, like Wix, I think that's what it's called, something like that, Wix. And there are others, Google. These are ones you can start out with for free and so forth. You can make use of your social media site as a website, Facebook or whatever you might be using. Remember, this is crucial. If you're going to have, a presence on the web, you've got to make sure that the design is good, and all those other things, spelling, grammar, the pictures, how they load, the overall layout of a page, and we talked about that earlier in terms of having a decent web presence. Website security. This is really a big deal, especially people who are writing code that functions on a website. You got to make sure that's done correctly so it's secured. If you're hiring people to do that, you got to be aware, do they understand the security issues with a website. The HTML is available to people at a website. They can look at that. It can be copied. Websites can very easily be, you can make a copy of a website and then send somebody an email that will direct them to a particular location. It might not be the real website, and so you could have issues there, and we'll talk more about that later on. We already talked about cloud computing, but I needed to mention it here in terms of websites, creating websites, and creating cloud computing. Lots of different things we can do. Virtual private network, there is a way quite easily where if you have access, let's say this is your business and this is your remote site, you can create a VPN so that you can use the internet to connect into the internet and send the traffic through the internet and then come back and connect to your other site, and a VPN will encrypt the information traveling through the internet. And a lot of small banks do that, and you can actually connect other sites, and you really just need to have access to the internet through an ISP. Okay? And so another thing we can do across the internet, we can do voice over IP. You can hook up your phone systems so the phone systems can speak through the internet. A lot of big companies use voice over IP. The signal goes right across the same medium, and you have VoIP phones. You have phones plugged right into the network, and they manage that information across the internet. There's some other security issues and items. We'll talk about that later on. The last thing people should know: to get into the internet, you must go through an internet service provider. Okay, your traffic must go through there. To get connected to an internet service provider, there could be a cable modem. You can do it through phone wire. And in some cases, a provider might offer a wireless way to connect. And that can vary a little bit depending on how they do that. Okay? Now, when you're at McDonald's, you're at some location and they have internet access there, they typically are offering you to connect to their network through a Wi-Fi, but then they're using some other method. They're using some other method to get in. They're going through an ISP too. Now, if it's at your house, you might have a cable modem, or you might have DSL through the phone. There are some wireless ways to do that. Typically, if you're on Wi-Fi, you're connecting to an access point, but that access point then is not directly connected to the internet. It's connected in through some other means or device. Okay? And we'll talk about Section 5.5 next.